Hi, welcome to This Week in Ames. I'm Susan Guiazda. On today's show, we'll check in with the Ames Planning and Housing Department. My guest today is Karen Marren, planner with the City of Ames Planning and Housing Department. Karen, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So being a planner is kind of an interesting job. It's got a great title, but I'm not sure that everybody quite knows what it is a planner does.
So we work with developers and contractors, people who are looking to redevelop their property or look at what the zoning is on their property. And we review plans for any type of development or redevelopment, subdivisions, and we work with all those folks to try to work with their property, find out what they can and can't do on their properties.
A lot of the business of the city is based on things that the planning department comes up with, long-range plans, short-term plans. It's all in the title of planner. You really are looking at the future growth and development of a city.
Sure. We have the comprehensive plan or the land use policy plan for the city, and that sort of sets the tone for what the council would like to see for development in certain areas and the types of uses. And so we look to that with then the zoning code to say what can they do on those properties for development purposes.
So as a planner, what kind of background do you think makes for a good planner?
Well, generally, I mean, I have a background in architecture to start with, but then I went to graduate school in community regional planning, so I do have a planning education generally, but you see a lot of different backgrounds with architecture, landscape architecture, even engineering, as well as public administration.
Well, you have a big project that has a lot to do with planning. It's really exciting, the Lincoln Way Corridor Plan. Tell me a little bit about this and what you hope to accomplish.
So the Lincoln Way Corridor Plan is a plan that council initiated. It is part of the land use policy plan update that will eventually come into play. This is sort of the first step, looking at Lincoln Way from east to west within the city limits to look at opportunities for reinvestment in the corridor, changes on the corridor redevelopment to see where we could potentially do some redevelopment along the corridor, and also look at things like character and urban design to see if there are some opportunities for those types of development.
Now, Lincoln Way has a long history in this community. Not only that, it was the old Lincoln Highway. Let's talk a little bit about Lincoln Way's significance in Ames.
Well, it's the major thoroughfare. From the west boundary of Ames to the east boundary of Ames, everyone has to cross it at some point. That's what everybody talks about. And it has different components to it. There's a very residential component in West Ames. You have Campus Town. There's a connection with downtown, as well as a big connection through our industrial area. So there's a lot of things that can happen and will happen along the corridor that I think make for everybody to see how important that corridor is through the city.
I think people drive it so often that they don't even really see it anymore, and yet you go through so many facets of Ames when you drive it. Probably people are driving sections of it. Unless you're really just on your way out of town, you're not really driving it from east to west or west to east.
So there is the section of Ames from Duff to Grand that is U.S. highway as well. So under DOT control, that somewhat changes how we can look at some of those components. However, future planning, we want to plan for those areas in case things change down the road.
So looking at the corridor, are you just looking at specifically the road and the property adjacent to it, or does it go a little deeper?
Well, we're generally looking within a block on each side of Lincoln Way. That's sort of who's been identified as the key impact to the corridor. But there are certain components, property sizes, areas within the corridor that we may go a little bit deeper because there's a bigger impact to those certain intersections or certain areas of the corridor. So there's some flexibility in the way the plan is set up moving forward.
So when I've driven around Lincoln Way, I see things like SIRIDE and signs that look similar that take you all the way through the corridor, but are there other components that you could use and sort of piece together that area as sort of a comprehensive area?
Well, like I said, there's different areas of the corridor having different land uses. They have a different feel. The part of the study is going to allow our consultants to look at those types of things to see are there opportunities for urban design improvements, safety improvements, streetscaping, wayfinding signage. Those types of things may all come out when you start talking with the public and finding what pieces the community wants to see.
So you brought up public input, and that is, I understand, a very important part of this plan.
Yeah, we are currently the consultants are working through the outreach portion of the project. They've done some background, done existing conditions, collected data about the corridor. Now we're in the outreach stage where we've got 3 different public workshops set up. March 2nd, there's going to be 2 public workshops in the evening. The first one's going to be a neighborhood workshop, and that will be for the neighborhoods that abut the corridor. We've got 6 neighborhood associations that formally abut the corridor, as well as the residential property owners that abut the corridor. So that's where the neighborhood workshop is going to be. We're going to look for feedback from folks who are impacted most significantly by the corridor. After the neighborhood workshop starting at 7:30, then we have a public workshop, which is for any citizen or resident in Ames to come and give feedback to the consultants about what they would like to see or concerns or issues they would like addressed as part of the corridor plan. And then we also want to get input from those business owners, property owners, commercial or industrial. And we have a business workshop set up for March 3rd at 8 a.m.
And those first 2 public input sessions, those are going to be held where?
They'll be out at Zeke's in West Ames, 3329 Lincoln Way.
And then the business workshop in the morning?
We'll be here at 8 a.m. at City Hall up in council chambers.
So if you miss the public input sessions, what other way can you get involved?
We have a project workshop. Our consultants out of Chicago, Housel and Levine, set up a project workshop for the corridor plan. You can access it through the City of Ames website, either going to the planning division page or through the main page. And they have a project website where you can get on and do some interactive map tools. There are some questionnaires for both business owners and residents. And then you can also just email me directly. There's my website or my email address is online, and you can email me to get contact information for the corridor plan.
So this isn't going to wrap up right away. This is a long-term project. When
It's
does
about
it
a
end?
10-month process. We're looking to wrap it up October or November of this year. Council initiated it back in January to do the kickoff. So we're looking at wrapping it up within 2016.
Great. Well, Karen, it sounds really exciting. What a great plan, a great opportunity for the public to get involved. Why do you think the public involvement's important?
Well, it's important because we need to know how they're impacted by Lincoln Way. What are the concerns out there? We can see some as we drive up and down the corridor in terms of land uses and intersections, but we need to know those property owners and those business owners that are on the corridor, what are their concerns? What would they like to see? How would they like to see it done? So that council can also get that feedback, and when they're initiating this plan, what things should we be programming for in the future?
Great. Well, I hope to have you come back and tell us a little bit more about the progress.
Thank you.
If you'd like more information about the Lincoln Way Corridor Plan, don't forget you can go and get that information on our website. Not only are the public meetings on there, which are March 2nd and 3rd, but also an interactive website to share your thoughts and feelings about Lincoln Way. Go to www.cityofames.org and look for In the Spotlight at the bottom of the web page, and you can share your thoughts. Well, that's our show for today. Thanks for watching, and tune in next week for This Week in Ames.